Good evening, folks, and welcome back to another episode of NASCAR Backmarker Battles. I'm your host of the usual ARCA Racing podcast, Colby Evans, aka Starting Park Car on Twitter, and welcome to our Dirt Bristol review. It was a fun and dirty weekend over in Tennessee at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Like I said, I mentioned before on my account, Dirt Bristol is not necessarily one of my favorite tracks, but obviously some people have different opinions on it. But here today, we're going to discuss the Backmarker Battles. How did the Backmarkers do at the Dirt Bristol races? We're here to talk about it. So you guys know the drill. We're going to go through my little intro, and we'll get right into the show. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media at Starting Park Car on Twitter. Like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell for all notifications. We just surpassed 1,060 subs. Thank you again, guys, for the continued support. And also give a check out to the racingexperts.com, NASCAR's premier NASCAR Media website. So, all right, let's get right into it, shall we? Dirt Bristol. I liked the concept. I like the concept of Dirt Bristol. I think watching like the World of Outlaws go around Dirt Bristol is entertaining. Not really still sure, not still sold on about NASCAR Dirt Bristol. I think there were moments, especially in last night's races in both truck and cup, that showed amazing racing. But overall, just too many yellows, too many bad officiating calls for my taste that kind of just soured me on the thing. I don't know what your guys' opinion on it is, but I'm still not necessarily sold on it, but I'm not going to say that it's absolutely dumb. I thought we saw some great racing in both the trucks and cup races, but overall, still not really sold on it. You heard me say only trucks and cup. Xfinity, they do not run this race. Xfinity does not run Dirt Bristol, although we did see a couple of Xfinity drivers jokingly say, let's do this, man. Let's run Dirt Bristol for the Xfinity. Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. I think for especially some lower budget owners like Mike Harmon, Carl Long, Tommy John Martins, and multiple other underdog Xfinity organizations, I think the last thing they want to do is have to prepare a dirt car. So, and even then, it's kind of a struggle for a lot of these truck teams. You know, a lot of these independent truck teams at the back of the field. It's a struggle for them just to put together a dirt truck. A lot of them still using the zombie bodies. We did see a couple of zombies out there, the zombie Camrys, which is one thing I love to see. I always love when we see a zombie, whether it be a zombie Chevrolet, which I know some teams were running, and a zombie Toyota as well. So getting started off with the truck series right here, we had one of the biggest truck series entry lists outside of Daytona. 41 trucks, obviously a big field. That was expected to be a big field. A lot of the different notable entries we talked about. Jonathan Davenport in the 7 for Spire. Norm Benning, everyone's favorite underdog. Norm Benning was back again. Stefan Parsons was driving the 20. It's kind of safe to say that Stefan has kind of become the default driver for any organizations. Whenever a team like SS Greenlight Racing's or Young's Motorsports, when they don't have anybody in the car, just put Stefan in because he can easily get in the show, and overall he'll give that car or truck a great run. So kind of safe to say Stefan's the default now. So he was in the 20. Chase Briscoe was in the 22 for AM Racing. Tanner Carrick was in the 30 for On Point Motorsports. Josh Riom was back in his own 34 for this race. Tyler Carpenter, the dirt racer who won the Gateway Nationals, he was in the 41 again. Jerry Bowman was in the 46. Andrew Gordon was in the 47. G2G brought 2 trucks to this race. William Byron from the Cup Series came down to run the 51 for Kyle Busch. Jessica Friesen, Stewart's wife, returned again in the 62. Joey Logano in the first appearance for the 66. Is this the first appearance for the 66 this year? Because I know it's supposed to run some races with Connor Jones, but the 66 for Thor Sport appeared again with Joey Logano. Parker Klickerman, of course, and that kind of rounded out the oddball entries. And everyone else was kind of the usual truck series entries we see on a weekly basis, but it tallied to 41 trucks for 36 spots. Now, I definitely put out a tweet saying I still didn't really understand the whole passing point situation. To me, the more simplest way would have been just to take the top 8 from every session, every heat race. That would make it 32, and then the fastest 4 in the final qualifying race would make 33rd through 36. So for me, I really don't. I did like I said, I just couldn't understand the whole passing points, but I guess it was simple as it gets. The more trucks you pass, the more points you accumulate. But to me, it never really seemed fair for the person who, kind of like what Bubba Wallace would go on to say in his Cup interview, the guy who would start on the pole for his heat race could literally lead every single lap, but then not do anything. So the funniest part I find about that is Andrew Gordon, who started on the pole for his heat race, had Andrew been able to hold the lead his entire heat race, would have accumulated no points and possibly still could have missed the show. I don't know. Again, I don't know how all that kind of stuff makes sense, but yeah, through the heat race results, the 62 of Jessica Friesen, I'm not sure if it's just, is it her or is it her truck, but Jessica has been, I would honestly say, disappointing for sure. She has yet to make this Bristol dirt truck race. 2021, the qualifying got rained out, so she had to be sent home. And the last 2 years, she was just simply too slow. I think it's quite shocking because, how much faster her husband really is, and how she just, I don't know if it's just because it's Bristol, she just can't get a knack for the track, but she wasn't just like slow. I mean, she was over a second behind the rest of the field. It was really shocking to see. And this is not a, low budget truck. This is Halmar Friesen Racing, one of the more competitive top tier truck teams, I would say, behind Thor Sport and behind KBM. I mean, they're running top 10 every single week, or capable of top 10 finishes every single week with Stewart. So seeing Jessica struggle this much was a little, unexpected, but also shocking at the same time because I did not have her on my DNQ list. My projected DNQs for this race were the 2 G2G trucks. The 62 was on my I had her on my DNQ list, but then when I saw Rayom in the 34, I took her out, put the 34 in. And I actually had Norm and Davenport, mainly because I didn't know who Jonathan Davenport is. I know. Come at me if you must, but I did not know who Jonathan Davenport is. But after a quick YouTube search, I'm like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. So I apologize, guys. I did not know who Jonathan Davenport is. I don't follow the dirt racing that hard. The only real dirt race I go to every year is the Knoxville Nationals. That's the only dirt race I go to every year. So sorry if I didn't know who Jonathan Davenport was. My apologies. So they say that winning your heat from the pole still earns 10 passing points. Okay, thank you for explaining that to me in the chat. I appreciate that because, like I said, the whole passing point stuff, I just didn't understand it. But thanks to the passing points process, the way they do it, it actually got one of NASCAR's ultimate underdogs in the race. In Norm Benning's heat, the truck actually shut off during his race. I had some friends in the stands who were sending me live updates, and they had said that Norm's truck appeared to go slow, but got going again. But either way, it was like 10 seconds behind the field. So, I even tweeted out saying the 6 is done unless a miracle happens. Well, that miracle did happen. The 41 of Tyler Carpenter pulled off on the last lap, and I believe, what was it, the 30? The 30 pulled off too, and those 2 trucks, Norm Benning accumulated enough passing points to lock himself in. And I think one of the coolest underdog stories of the heat races was Norm thought he had missed the race. And then all of a sudden he gets back to his garage stall, or I think it was either pit road or garage stall, and the crew is just going ballistic. There's media people everywhere. And then they get his reaction on TV and they show his natural reaction. It's like, what a great underdog moment. And those are the moments that when you're a fan of the underdogs like I am and like most of you guys are who watch my show, those are the moments that you live for, man. A guy, 71 years old. He's been in this business longer than most of us have been alive. And he's still out there and he can still go out there and make the show, even if his truck probably wasn't 100% competitive. But yeah, the heat races overall were entertaining. Overall, though, we did see some shocking DNQs. The 5 barely made the show. The 5 barely made the show. The 02 barely made the show. The 43, I think that's the most shocking. The 43 barely made the show by 8 owner points over the 45 of Lawless Island. So think about that. We could have seen a GMS truck DNQ this race because Daniel Dye had a rough night. He spun so many times, he probably got headaches with how many times he spun around. but there was a very real possibility we could have seen some very high-profile trucks go home had they not done what they did in their heat races. The final DNQ list after all the tallies, I would say was shocking, but also not at the same time. Some underdogs that we did get to see make the show. 33 of Mason Massey was able to race his way in. We know Norm raced his way in. Stefan raced his way in. Other underdogs that raced their way in, Caden Honeycutt. Caden Honeycutt was probably the absolute star of the dirt truck heats, running for Roper Racing. He came from the back all the way up to, I believe, second or third in his heat race. He would end up ninth in the final standings, a little bit of a spoiler. But unfortunately, some underdogs had to go home. I do feel for the 46 of Jerry Boldman. He didn't even get a lap at all because practice was canceled. Even though you did get a couple of practice laps before the race, 46 didn't make a single lap. The truck was stuck in gear. They couldn't get it to go. And that really sucks, man. All that effort to get out there and not even be able to make a single lap. So the 46 went home. The second G2G truck, Andrew Gordon, spun during a little practice lap, but got going again. And he was holding his own there at the start of the heat race for about 4 or 5 laps, but quickly it started to go wrong. And then towards the end of his heat race, he unfortunately would lose a tire. And, well, with no owner points on the 47, that pretty much spelled the end for the 47. We already mentioned the 62 of Jessica Friesen, just slow. Truck didn't really appear to handle bad. It was just slow. Josh Rayholm, that was kind of a predicted DNQ. Josh, not the biggest dirt racer. Kind of surprised the 34 even showed up. We've kind of seen the 34 as more of a field filler type entry this year, but they've still been at every race. And Lawless Allen goes home again. And this is the shocking DNQ, I would say, just like Daytona. I believe Daytona, Lawless, I think he said he ran over something. But, yeah, Lawless Allen, 2 DNQs this season. And, as much as I like Lawless, I'd like to see him with a different team. I put that tweet out and, got some mixed reactions, and I knew it would. But I really would like to see Lawless in a different organization because I feel like Nice really, with all due respect to that organization, I really feel like Nice kind of screwed him over last year because running 4 full-time trucks really, in my opinion, hurt Nice Motorsports. It was very clear that they were putting more effort into the 41 and 40 trucks, 41 and 42 trucks than the 40 truck, 45, and the 44, however many trucks they're running. It didn't appear that they were putting as much effort into his truck, Dean Thompson's truck, and at the time, Chris Wright's truck before he got released. It was really noticeable every week about how much faster the 41 and the 42 would be. And I just feel like it really wasn't fair. And, same thing that we've seen this year. Lawless just hasn't been able to get out of the box, I feel like. DNQ at Daytona when his teammates, Travis Pastrana and Hocevar, were qualifying top 10, top 15. So this truck's out of the same shop. What are we doing here? Now, obviously, this one was more up to actual skill, but still, for Lawless to go home again, man, 2 DNQs, it makes me wonder, is that deal going to last the full year? At the end of the day, that's Lawless's sponsor. If he wants to leave Nice Motorsports, I'm sure he could. But I would like to see what Lawless could do with a different organization. I really would. But I still feel like even at the end of the day, Nice is spreading themselves too thin. I would say if they committed themselves down to the 41 and the 42, that they could be, I wouldn't necessarily say a powerhouse truck team, but I feel like they could be right there with the Halmar team as maybe a good top tier, top 10 caliber truck, top 5 truck every single week. Because I feel like you really have to see them every week just pushing that trucks maybe over the limit just to get the runs that they're getting. Like some people are saying in the chat, maybe Lawless goes over to Young's, but maybe you could say that's a downgrade. Not really sure what other truck teams there is right now because, like I said, we're right in the middle of the year, so it'd be kind of hard to switch. But I would like to see Lawless for 2024, maybe even beyond, go to a different organization because I feel like Nice is kind of holding him back. They're not giving him what they're giving Carson or that 41 truck in particular. So he was kind of the big surprise on the DNQ list was the 45 of Alon. just frustrating overall because he's a good kid. Lawless is a good kid. But the field was set. Race got underway, and unfortunately, talk about a rough weekend for the underdogs. It started off early. 8 laps in, the 33 of Mason Massey. I believe Mason actually I didn't see the crash because I was getting home late from a family dinner. So that's why you guys probably didn't see me tweeting up like previews because I was at a family dinner event. But I got home and I basically turned on to see the 33 truck and the 20 truck spinning around and slamming into each other, along with the 17, the 99, the 41. They were all involved. And I'm like, man, I just feel so bad for Tyler Young. Rayom has wrecked a couple of trucks this year, but literally, I think Tyler Young has wrecked a truck, at least one, in every single race this year. Mason Massey, he's actually been, I would say, fairly consistent this year with his runs. I just think it's inexperience on dirt may have just gotten the best of him. He spun around. I believe he is what triggered the accident from what a couple of people told me. But his truck was destroyed. The 20 was destroyed. And again, like I was saying, I feel so bad for Tyler Young. I mean, he's wrecking so many trucks every week. I mean, thank God he's got guys that can bring sponsors. But, you look at this truck this week, and the 20 truck was completely blank. It was just white with a black number 20 on it. I don't think Stefan brought any money. I just think they had Stefan drive it because, the truck is scheduled to run the whole year. And they didn't have anyone for it. So, that's even worse. You come home with a destroyed truck in last place, so your points money is low, no sponsorship to help pay for the bills. It's just a really sucky situation. And Tyler Young, they're a good team. Tyler Young, Randy Young, great people. Very hard work and organization. And you could say it's because of the drivers they've hired. I mean, we've been very critical of Chris Wright on the show. I think anyone can see that. We have not been the most positive on Chris Wright, and I think rightfully so. Chris Wright definitely tears up a lot of equipment. Spencer Boyd is usually just slow. He either crashes or he runs slow, and it's that 20 truck just has so much bad luck. It's either crashes or just more bad runs. Stefan always does a great job, but I mean, in this sense, it wasn't his fault, just wrong place at the wrong time. But man, I really feel for Tyler Young, man. I really, really do. Hardworking man, but man, do they have no luck at all. And all 3 trucks tonight were pretty well destroyed. I mean, they can still be reused, but all the body was destroyed on pretty much all 3 trucks. And it's got to suck, man, to go all the way back to the race shop in North Carolina and basically unload the trucks and then just start dismembering them. I mean, that's all they can do. And I don't mean, do they really have time to do that? You kind of just got to push those 3 trucks to the side and get ready for Martinsville this weekend. But yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way. I feel for Young's Motorsports, man. That really sucks. But right out of the gate, we knew right there Norm Benning wasn't finishing last, so I guess that was an improvement. 7 laps later, though, we had more chaos. The 16, 02, 55. Or I guess 56. They have it right here typed in 55, but I don't believe there is a 55 truck. 41 and 12. Timmy Hill was involved in this one. Like I said, poor Timmy can't catch a break. The 16 was done for the day. The 56 took a heck of a hit in the right side, just behind the wheel well, but I think Timmy said the steering was off just a little bit from that. Just in the a little bit of that, but yeah, so far already 2 rough weeks for Hill Motorsports, but luckily this was a zombie nose body, so it's like if they crash the truck, it's not a horrible loss, but still not something you want to do. But unfortunately, the night would get worse for my buddy Timmy, but we'll get to that a little bit. But yeah, another big crash that wiped out the 16. Like I just said about Randy Young, the 02 was destroyed. The 56, lots of damage to the right side. The 41 of Tyler Carpenter, this was his first of 4 accidents. Tyler had a rough night. And, of course, the 12 of Spencer Boyd. So only 28 laps into the race, and all 3 Young's Motorsports trucks sustained heavy, heavy damage. Again, really sucks. 6 laps at the end of the stage. Caution, 66 Timmy, 56 Timmy Hill got the free pass. Race, I mean, we just had our kind of spins and average contact. We didn't really see horrible chaos for the rest of the race until the later stages when the 41 spun again and then was involved in another crash, and then finally was involved in a final crash with Timmy Hill nonetheless. That finally killed his truck, and that was the crash where Timmy got annihilated again on the right side, which basically bent everything in the rear. Somehow the rear end housing was not hanging out of the truck or falling out, but Timmy said, and I quote, and pardon my language here, "This is the worst piece of I've ever driven in my life." So yeah, Timmy basically from lap, with about 20 laps to go, he was kind of debating with the crew whether they should finish the race or not. And Timmy just kind of said, "Oh, well," gave a little chuckle on the radio and said, "Let's finish this thing." And boy, those last couple laps, that truck was bouncing all over the place. It did not look good at all. I'm happy he finished because he keeps his finishing streak alive. But boy, those last 25 laps must have been pretty fun for Timmy. So, yeah, it definitely a couple of weeks that the Hill Motorsports team might want to forget. But I love those guys, of course. In the other melee, though, we did crash quite a few trucks. Like I said, the 41 of Carpenter was involved in multiple accidents. 75 of Parker Kligerman. That team really didn't do much. They kind of qualified mid-pack, ran mid-pack, and then I don't know if they got crashed or he blew a tire, but they had to go to behind the garage early. 28 trucks finished in this of the 36 finished the race. Norm Benning finished on the lead lap, kind of avoided all the chaos, ran his own race, and finished a very solid, probably 24th place finish. I love the fact that Norm left the wrap on from last year. I'm not even sure if Circle B was even paying sponsorship for this race. I don't think they were. I think he just left the wrap on from last year, which included all the names of the people who donated last year, which I thought, man, that's a pretty cool thing for him to do. And it's the first race that Norm Benning made since 2021, since the fall of 2021 Talladega. So although he's attempted a couple of races, it's the first race that Norm Benning has made in over a year and a half. So that was great to see. Norm still has 3 trucks in his shop. The biggest problem he has right now is that they just need to get updated bodies. As we know, the Truck Series has updated its bodies in the last couple years, and that's the one thing that's been preventing Norm from attempting more races. But as we've seen this year, we have seen some short fields, and I think it is very well possible that, like the truck race up in Pocono, his home track, I could see that race being a short field because we only have about 35, 36 trucks that are showing up average every week. So maybe Norm might get lucky for his home track in Pocono. But for now, this might be his only start. But does set a new record. At 71 years old, Norm Benning is now the oldest active oldest driver in history to get a lead lap finish in the NASCAR top 3 divisions. I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, man. He beats Morgan Shepherd by 3 years, and it's safe to say that that is a record that is more than likely not going to be beat. Finishing on the lead lap in your 70s. That's pretty impressive by Norm. So, yeah, for the ultimate underdog, it was a fun night. For the underdogs, like I said, Timmy, he nursed that poor truck to 25th. Tanner Carrick finished 30th. Colby Howard finished 29th or 27th. Chris Wright 36th. 32nd, sorry. Mason Massey 35th and Stefan Parsons 36th. We did have a couple of underdogs do well. Caden Honeycutt, we mentioned Caden. He was a star in the heat races. He ran top 15 the entire race, top 10, top 15, top 5 at one point, and scored at a great 9th place finish for that organization. It's a real shame that as of now, that this weekend in Martinsville is the last scheduled race for the 04. And that's pretty sad. That is really sad. We will not be the only attempt for Norm this year. Dan in the chat, that was Norm's crew chief. Thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate that. So it will not be the only attempt. But we do know Norm needs to get his trucks updated, but they do want to attempt more races. I remember seeing that in an article. So thank you, Dan, in the chat. Yes, so that'll be not the only attempt for Norm. I would expect to see him at his home track in Pocono because I know he loves to attempt that race every year. And maybe a lot of the tracks that are up in the Northwest. Working on getting body panels. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. So shout out to Dan in the chat, who was Norm's crew chief over the weekend, for letting us know. So Norm, for the fans of Norm Benning, folks, just know he'll be back this year. We don't know yet, but they're just working on getting the body panels and getting the trucks updated. Yeah. And then, of course, including, I guess you could say it's an underdog team, even though it's not an underdog driver. Chase Briscoe drove the 22 to a top 10 finish, which for the 22 team is a big win because obviously, they've had Josh Rayom drive their trucks this year, a couple of their own, what's Rayom's truck under their team a couple of times this year. So for at least AM Racing's truck team, they get a solid top 10 finish. And Spencer Boyd, out of all of that, even Spencer Boyd driving a destroyed truck, he got 16th. Never would have predicted Spencer Boyd getting a top 20 finish in a dirt race. Owner standings coming out of this race. The trucks that DNQ'd, they struggled to fall down the line. The 34 of Rayom is down now in 39th. The 20 of Young's is now down in 36th. The 46 for G2G is down in 35th. The 45 for Nice down in 32nd. 12 of Young's is 31st. The 5 Tricon Garage truck finally gets out of the top 30, now in 29th. Brett Holmes is 28th. Tricon number 1 is 27th. Hill is 56, is 26th. And GMS 43 is 25th. Everyone else and above is pretty much safe. I think they say the top 29 trucks are locked into the show every week. I believe that's how it goes, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I will say it's definitely a little shocking to see Henderson Motorsports this year. They haven't been the same Henderson Motorsports that we saw last year. They led almost every single lap and dominated that Mid-Ohio race last year. But in every start they've made this year, we just really haven't seen the same Henderson, I feel like. I agree with a lot of people have said. Maybe, I don't know if it's just the team. I know, that team's one of the oldest teams in the garage. They have new equipment, but they're just an old organization. But definitely not where they were last year. And I'm curious when they run Mid-Ohio if Parker and them can show the same speed. But yeah, so 43 trucks officially have now made a start on the Truck Series owner points list. Some backmarker teams had fun at Bristol, and some backmarker truck teams did not have fun at Dirt Bristol. But for them, we will talk more about that on Thursday's episode for Backmarker Battles when we preview the Martinsville truck race, because we have some fun things to discuss for that one. That's for sure. Parker will not race Mid-Ohio. Well, that sucks. Overlaps with the Atlantic Xfinity race. Man, wow, that sucks. Boy, Mariner, Debbie Downer in the chat. Mariner. I appreciate that, Mariner, but now you're Debbie Downer in the chat. So, oh well. Let's just move on to the Cup race now. So, obviously, like I said, no Xfinity. So, now we come to the Cup Dirt Bristol event. No DNQs, of course, for this race, but we did have an open car entry. Jonathan Davenport would run the 13 again for Colleague. Other notable entries in this race, we had we didn't have many different entries. J.J. Yeley was back in the 15 this week once again, and we had Matt Crafton was kind of the biggest story in the 51, and we talked about it on last night's podcast episode. Cody Ware getting arrested for the charges of assault on a female. We talked more about that yesterday. I'm not going to get into all of it tonight. If you guys want to listen to more about it, that was on yesterday's podcast, because it's just not a topic I don't really want to talk about. Just needless to say that Cody will not be in the 51 for the time being. We'll put it like that. So Matt Crafton was in the 51. Matt's been racing dirt for quite a while now. So, wasn't quite shocking to see him being picked for the 51. And since Rick Ware is a Ford affiliate team and Thor Sports a Ford affiliate team, That is also not shocking as well, and I actually wouldn't shock to see Crafton drive the 51 again this year. The heat races were once again fun to watch. The star of the heat races was watching J.J. Yeley. You guys know me. I'm a big J.J. Yeley mark. Seeing him go from basically last and just ripping the outside line the entire race and going from last to third in his heat was a beautiful sight to see. And I honestly think had the top two, Ryan Preece and Larson, not gotten so far away, I think Yeley, I don't know if he would have won, but he may have had a chance at that heat race win. That's for sure. And if he had won that heat race, if Yeley had won that heat race, he would have been on the pole. And that would have been cool to see. But yeah, Yeley started third in the Cup race, the absolute highlight of the heat races for sure. I actually listened to BJ's radio for this race. This was BJ McLeod's first dirt race in 35 years. BJ is 39 years old, so first dirt race for BJ in a long, long time. A lot of people saying that BJ should have put a dirt ringer in the car. And I know what you're saying, yeah, but at the end of the day, you got to also find a dirt ringer that's willing to do it. I mean, this is a very different type of car. Some dirt ringers, I know there's a lot of people in the dirt world that laugh at this event, which I know is not the kindest thing to say, but it is true. There's a lot of dirt people who laugh at this event. Saw a lot of people calling it a joke. So maybe it's not easier than you think to find a dirt ringer. Maybe BJ just wanted to give it a try for himself. I don't know, but they kind of had a cool sponsorship, Gunk. Shout out to the teams that got cleanser sponsors like Gain and Tide and Gunk for a race like this. Just makes the weekend so much more fun. But yeah, the notables in qualifying that did good. Like I said, Yeley starting third. BJ qualifying last, of course. That was not shocking. He took it very, very easy in the heat races. A.J. Allmendinger, I believe that was his first time on the dirt. He was 29th. Brad Keselowski, 33rd. He does not like the dirt. He'll tell you that himself. Even Ty Dillon, the dirt racer, only 32nd. Austin Dillon was second. The race was just all over the place with dirt ringers. Noah Gragson down in 36th for the start of the race. And we're going to talk about Legacy Motor Club in a second. So the race got started. And right out of the gate, we kind of had more crashes. But obviously with these next-gen cars, these bodies are a lot more tougher. And with how slow they're going at Bristol, and especially at Bristol Dirt, we knew that these cars could kind of take a beating when it comes to hits. Because although we saw some dents and some scratches, we didn't really see major damage to the body panels of these cars. So as long as they didn't hit that toe link, although we did see quite a few toe links break, the body panels themselves didn't give, but the toe links and the mechanical part did. Michael McDowell was kind of the cool part of this. Two straight 360s. Mike Joy kind of like marked out like a fan when he saw the Michael McDowell do it again. It just would have been nice if, Fox would have showed it instead of showing it on a replay 3 minutes later. That would have been nice to see. It just felt like, once again, I mean, how can you miss something on a half-mile track? I mean, fine. If you're at Talladega, fine. But we're at a half-mile track. How hard is it to miss something on track? Like, seriously. Maybe you could get a pass if this was a 1.5 miles or a 2 mile or a super speedway. But we're at a half-mile track, and you hear the commentators mark out for another 360 spin, and you don't even cut to it. You just keep your camera on the leaders. Like, come on. Well, what are we doing here? Really, what are we doing here? But yeah, Gilliland and McDowell were kind of the stars of the show. The 51 of Crafton, he even took a spin, but he didn't hit anything. Yeley, who started third, kind of predictable. He fell back early in the race, but he held his own. And I would say Yeley held his own in the top 20 for about a good first 100 laps. He held his own, and then he just kind of eventually slipped back through the field. I think a lot of people forget that Gilliland has run dirt quite a bit before he started running full-time NASCAR. So I think a lot of people just didn't expect that out of Todd Gilliland. But I really wasn't all that shocked because I knew Todd. He ran even some I believe Todd even ran some ARCA races on the dirt. So yeah, that was not real shocking to see the 38. It's just Front Row Motorsport, like I said, they have just been on fire this year. Absolutely have been on fire. But yeah, going throughout the race, I was listening to BJ's channel, and yeah, he just sounded up like a guy who kind of wanted to just get through this. I will say though, BJ McLeod has without a doubt the most calmest tone on the radio. When he is mad about the car or he is happy about the car, he says it all in the same tone. And I feel like that is something that many race car drivers need to work on. And, you notice that guys like Dale Earnhardt, he did that too. Very rarely was Dale, even when he was upset with the car, Dale would not shout over the radio like what needed to be done. He would say it in a nice, calm tone, what needed to be done, what he wanted changed, and let's get it done on the next stop. And that's BJ McLeod. I mean, he was so calm. Like, it's so much fun listening to BJ's radio. And what a hype man is BJ's crew chief. Shout out to BJ McLeod's crew chief. What a hype man this guy was. Every time BJ would doubt himself, say, I'm sorry for what I was doing on track and not pushing it hard enough, his crew, his spotter and his crew chief were like, you got this, man. Don't second rate yourself. And I'm like, that is what a team is supposed to do. Live Fast Motorsports, man, those guys support each other. Shout out to Live Fast Motorsports' crew for sticking behind their driver as well as they should. And I just love that. And same thing with Kevin Harvick. Even when Kevin Harvick is frustrated with the car, I think the biggest thing that a driver should learn is never yell about the car over the radio. If you want something done to it, a nice, calm tone of what you want said and done. I feel like that builds respect from your crew to your driver. And I think maybe AJ Allmendinger could learn something from that. Kyle Busch at the same time. But yeah, listening to BJ's radio, man, he said he just didn't want to break anything, and rightfully so. I mean, about halfway through the race, we started to see the track coming apart. The turns had some big bumps in it, which was when we started to see some toe links failing. And BJ just basically said he was going to run around it. But, really shout out to BJ. He did a great job for his real first dirt race in a long time. Just kind of staying out of the way, even as, we had finally got some longer green flag runs later in the race. Of course, we had the incident with Ryan Preece and Kyle Larson, which I thought was fun. Gotta love that. Some underdogs, though, did struggle throughout the race. Poor Corey LaJoie. He got caught 3 laps down early from a green flag pit stop and just never recovered. So many other cars kept going laps down that he could never get his laps back. So poor Corey just was basically 3 laps down from about after lap 40. He would finish a dismal 30th. Matt Crafton, after 185 laps, when he had dropped off the track, I switched to his radio. And he said the car had shut off, and then while he was sitting in pit road, he lost oil pressure. So, when you lose oil pressure, it's pretty much safe to say your day is done. So, unfortunately for Matt Crafton, who at one point was running inside the top 20 on pace, his day was done. Jonathan Davenport was involved in the lap 176 crash. He had clipped Larson or had clipped someone. Or I think I had clipped Larson when Larson was coming down the track. So the open cars days was done. He would finish 36th. Other than that, all the other underdogs finished. Ty Dillon at one point did run as high as 5th at one point. But he just kind of continued to slip to the field. It was about time the 77 actually had a semi-decent run for once. But yeah, we all know what kind of was happening at the finish. The controversial caution calls with Kyle Busch spinning onto pit road and them calling a caution for no reason, which didn't really make any sense. And then we went green to the flag only to have a last lap caution, which kind of sucked the fun. But, the number 1 car was stopping the track, so it makes sense why they did stop the race, of course. But the race officially ended under caution. Christopher Bell wins, so congratulations to him and Joe Gibbs Racing. But for the underdogs, man, some great runs. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and JTG Doherty Racing, they continue to have a great season so far, despite some bad luck from time to time. 4th place, great run for them. Todd Gilliland, this guy is on fire. And, it's kind of funny. I put out a tweet saying, to put into perspective, Todd Gilliland's worst finish in the last 4 races is 15th. Saying like he deserves to be in that 38 car. And then I got all these people saying, well, he's got, if he belongs in the 38 car, he's got to find the sponsorship. Duh. I know how the sponsorship game works. Just saying, he belongs in that 38 car. I wish he could find the sponsorship game. But yet, you got the fans, you got the people in the sport that'll talk to you like a 5-year-old being like, well, yeah, but, he needs sponsorship to continue his ride. Yeah, duh. I'm not an idiot. I'm not 5 years old. Okay? So it's like, I hate when people talk to you like that. Well, if he wants to stay in that ride, he's got to continue the sponsorship. We get it, all right? We can't say one nice thing about him without people saying, well, he needs the sponsorship. Just be happy. People love to just sound smarter than others. And that's one of my other problems with NASCAR Twitter sometimes. But that's just my own gripe. Michael McDowell originally was listed in 10th place, but after some restructuring got listed down to 11th. Still a great weekend for Front Row Motorsports. This team is on fire with great runs. Both cars inside the top 15 last week. Both cars inside the top 11 this week. I mean, wow. From a team that struggled to just make races, this team DNQ'd 28 times in 2007, over 10 times in 2008, ran outside the top 30 in points with all 3 cars in 2010. And here we are in 2023, and NASCAR is at the most expensive it has ever been. And Front Row Motorsports is one of the most competitive underdog teams and the most competitive it has ever been. You love to freaking see it. Love to see it. They've got a great driver in Michael McDowell. It's about time. All these years for Michael McDowell, from having the prominence in ARCA to not really finding his foot in NASCAR, the start and park rides, Levine Family Racing. And then, man, when he finally hit this team, I'm like, when Michael McDowell joined Front Row, I'm like, this is the driver that's really going to help Front Row Motorsports. And that Daytona 500 win solidified it. Ever since that 500 win, that 34 team has stepped it up. And look at them now. I know they're not top 5 caliber every single week, but, man, are they really giving it socks. And shout out to the 38 car. We've always seen that the 38 car has been kind of the placeholder entry, hasn't really done as much as the 34, but Todd, man, he's backing it up with McDowell every week at this point. He really is doing it well. But I would say if you want to talk about a rags to riches, high-low career, Michael McDowell, without a shadow of a doubt, has one of the wackiest, craziest, but I would say should be remembered career in NASCAR history. A man who was only known for the infamous Texas flip, and I think now is finally, at this stage in the game, almost 40 years old, is finally carving a path for himself, and I could not be more happy for him. Other great underdog runs, we had Eric Jones. I mean, you could say it's an underdog, even though you could say Legacy Motor Club. The Petty team has kind of been considered underdogs, but I still consider an underdog for now, even though they're kind of not really. 14 for them. JJ Yeley for Rick Ware was still able to come out with a top 20 finish. So great run for them and for the top 33 charter battle. The 77, their first finish inside the top 30 this year, which is also good but sad at the same time. 21st. BJ McLeod, like I said, I praised BJ earlier. 26th on the lead lap. And his crew, man, they were just so happy. BJ was thanking everyone over on the radio. But yeah, great run for BJ McLeod's team. They needed that. We already went over Corey LaJoy. We already went over everyone else. But the one car I really wanted to talk about was, Legacy Motor Club and the 42. Everyone really buried Ty Dillon last year, saying, he doesn't deserve the ride anymore. The 42, he's bringing down the 42. What I want to say is, what has Noah Gragson done in the 42 this year? Nothing. Noah Gragson has done absolutely nothing in the 42 this year. And it really makes me wonder, was it the car? Ty Dillon, I feel like Ty has kind of gotten the short end of the stick in NASCAR. A lot of people don't like Ty Dillon, but I really look at him as a guy who is not giving as much of a chance as Austin was. You know, he was signed to Germain Racing, which was never a top-tier organization ever, top 20 at best most weeks. By their last days, they were lucky to run top 25. You know, he was just kind of floating around Cup teams, floating around, Petty last year, floating around Spire this year. But I feel like Ty just really hasn't gotten that as much of a big break as Austin did. But looking at his results from last year and looking at Noah's results this year, man, I think it really is safe to say that the 42 car absolutely sucks. I'm sorry for the fans of Legacy Motor Club, but the 42 sucks. Last year, that car finished outside the top 30 in owner points, and here we are after 8 races, and the 15 Rick Ware entry is higher than the 42 in owner points after 8 races. Like, I'm sorry here, guys. I'm sorry. But the 42 car sucks. We saw it last year. They didn't do anything. They did not do anything last year with Ty Dillon. Ty, he tried his best. But this year, Noah, you could say Noah to a point is overdriving the car. But I think it's safe to say that maybe a lot of the hate that Ty Dillon was getting last year, really was not as warranted maybe as people thought it was, because Noah has absolutely not done anything, and I don't expect anything else out of this year. Frankly, the 42 is already outside of the top 30. I don't expect it to climb back in the top 30, and if it does, I don't expect the 42 to finish any higher than 27th in points. The 43 is doing a little bit better, 27th, but even then, look at that. The 43 is 27th. Like, what happened to Legacy Motor Club? I know they've kind of had a rough start to the year. They kind of had some bad runs to start the year, but overall, the change and the upgrade for them getting Jimmy Johnson and changing their name has not really netted the team the best runs. And I know people saying like, well, it's lack of funding, but I'm like, now you got the funding from Jimmy Johnson. How can this team be short on funding? Seriously, how can this team be short on funding? I just think it's safe to say, Petty Motorsports just isn't there anymore. Legacy Motor Club just isn't as high as probably people think they are. Eric Jones, I think, is getting the best runs out of the car because we know Eric Jones is a great race car driver. But it's clear that the 42 is the weaker of the two cars, and it's not the fault of the driver. Ty Dillon, he didn't do anything in that car. Noah Gragson's not doing anything in that car. And frankly, it's sad. Noah Gragson was an absolute beast in Xfinity the last couple years. And here he is finally moving to Cup full-time, and he's doing nothing. Nothing of note, nothing notable. And it's a lot of people have already written him off for this year, I mean, let's face it, the Rookie of the Year battle is already done. Ty Gibbs, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to win the Rookie of the Year battle. I said Wookie, yeah. Rookie of the Year battle. In my opinion, the battle is already done. We all knew Ty was going to win. I mean, people acted like that Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson was going to be a Rookie of the Year battle for the ages. I'm like, no, it's not. That 54 is going to outrun the 42 by miles every week. And sure enough, that's exactly what's happening. So for all the people that gave Ty Dillon crap last year about doing poor in the 42 car, I really think we need to lighten up on that a little bit, because Noah Gragson is doing nothing in that 42 car. And Legacy Motor Club is not as competitive as they appear to be. I'm sorry. I like Noah. I love Legacy Motor Club. I'm a big Richard Petty fan, but the 42 team sucks. And I'm sorry, but they suck. There is no reason why they should be under the 15 of Rick Ware Racing. The fact that Rick Ware Racing's 15 car is doing better than them on almost a weekly basis says a lot. And I think it says a lot to how much Rick Ware has improved his organization to an extent. In the top 33 charter battle in general, though, the 78, the 31 has passed the 77 and the 78. They are currently tied right now for 35th, both with 53 points. Speaking of the 15 entry, with their great finish, they have astounded to an over 45-point lead. I think it's safe to say, unless a very serious accident happens or the 77 somehow wins, I think the 15 has all but already locked itself in for the year because it's going to be hard for teams like the 78 and the 77 and the team car, the 51, to gain over 30 points on a car that they barely outrun weekly, maybe by 1 to 2 spots. And I feel like this kind of just, it's the battle that we've been saying the last couple weeks. I really feel like Rick Ware Racing is going to get rid of a charter this year. We know that they swapped charters, and the 51 has the 15's charter from last year. Now, that would mean that this year is the last year that the 51 has available for its charter. And in that retrospective, I think the philosophy that we kind of put together was that they were going to put all their eggs into the 15. If the 15 can finish ahead in the top 33 charter battle, that guarantees Rick Ware Racing one Cup car in the Cup Series for at least another 3 years. So that would be through 2024, 2025, and 2026. That would put Rick Ware Racing with at least one car. But at the end of the year, it would allow Rick Ware to sell one charter because we know a lot of these big teams are looking to expand their operations. So I think that is the plan behind this. I think the 51, especially at this point without a full-time driver, if I was Rick, I would definitely at this point put monster focus on the 15 to try to keep that car inside the top 33. Because the last thing he needs is to have that car finish outside the top 33, because then that would mean that the 51 charter would go bye-bye and the 15 car would be in danger for 2024. But I would easily say it's too late for the 77 and 78. Despite the improvements of speed we have seen in the 78 car this year, they are just too far behind at this point to try to contend for the top 33. It is a little concerning because that means right now the 78 for BJ McLeod, 2024 would be their make or break year with their charter. It would be their make or break year. So I also believe the 77, I'll be shocked. And we talked about it a lot. I'll be shocked if the 77 goes on to 2024. I think after this year, Spire really, really needs to get rid of that car. If Ty Dillon is signed for a multi-year deal, cut it. Get rid of that 77 car. Sell the charter, get that money, and put it back into the 7 car and make that 7 car a top 20, top 15 caliber car every week. That's what I would do. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about the 42, guys, because I think that is embarrassing to be below the Rick Ware car in owner points. And that's not because – you could say that's not because of bad – it's because of bad luck. But I don't know, man. Can Joe Falk just leave that so he keeps it? Well, remember, even Joe Falk owns the charter, yes, but the charter is still in year 2. So no matter what, after 2024, they'll lose it either way. Joe would have to sell it, or BJ and Joe would have to sell it, unless the 78 is in the top 33 for 2024. So 2024 may well be the last year for Live Fast Motorsports and Cup if they can improve their program. So we'll look at it like that too. But yeah, Dirt Bristol, like I said, for trucks too, was kind for some backmarkers, and for some backmarkers a little bit of a struggle. But yeah, I just really wanted to talk about Legacy Motor Club, man, because I think Ty Dillon did not deserve the hate that he got last year, because Noah Gragson has not done anything in that car. And at this point, I don't expect him to do anything at all in that 42 car for the rest of the year. Kind of hoping at this point the 15 continues to outrun him. JJ's continuing to do a great job in that 15, and he is back. Spoiler alert, he is back in that 15 again for Martinsville. Whew, that was a long show, guys. I'm actually enjoying this, the way we're doing this new Backmarker Battles format. The review show on Tuesday and the preview show on Thursday. I hope you guys enjoy it too. I feel like it's more of a better flow. We're not, trying to skipping a beat all the time, but I hope you guys enjoyed the review and preview formats a lot better than just the whole thing clumped together, because sometimes I get a little off of what I'm talking about. But yes, thank you guys for joining me on this Tuesday night. No ARCA podcast because there's no ARCA races for a couple of weeks. So I will see you guys again on Thursday, live again at 7 p.m. Central Time. You guys know the drill. we'll be previewing the Martinsville Truck Race, Martinsville Xfinity Race, and Martinsville Cup Race. We will have it all here for you guys, previewing the backmarker battles and which cars and trucks will have to go hard to make the race. So we will see you guys on Thursday night, again at 7 p.m. Central Time. You guys know the drill. Like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications. If you want to give me a follow on Twitter, it's in the link in the description. Like and subscribe to the channel. Have a good rest of your Tuesday nights, and I will see you all in a couple days. Colby Evans, Starting Park Car, signing off. So long, guys.